Did you know that Ashton Kutcher was supposed to go on a date with a girl the night she was...
I'm sorry, what?
And of course, despite that, now all of Ashton Kutcher's sources are saying he never in a million years would have even guessed that Diddy could have been doing something like that. Which is crazy because 5 years ago, I was hearing rumors of what Diddy was doing, and your friend of 20 years didn't know.
So I guess I never realized how close Ashton Kutcher is with P. Diddy. I had no idea that they had been friends for years and Ashton Kutcher used to attend Diddy's white parties.
Y'all, everyone's favorite pretty boy from that 70s show is getting dragged into Diddy's mess, and honey, it's looking messier by the minute. But wait, because this rabbit hole goes so much deeper than anyone could have imagined. People have been digging into Ashton's past like it's a treasure hunt, and what they're finding is making everyone's skin crawl. We're talking super inappropriate comments about Hillary Duff when she was just a teenage girl, like, who even does that? And here's where it gets even darker and more twisted. There's this super eerie connection to two girls who were mysteriously unalived. I know, right? Just when you thought this couldn't get any more disturbing. And get this bombshell that's making everyone's heads spin. Word on the street is that Ashton is literally packing his bags and not just leaving Hollywood, but the entire United States. Like, who just up and leaves the country unless they're trying to dodge something major coming their way? Stay with me because we're about to dive deep into all the disturbing skeletons in Ashton Kutcher's closet.
Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis getting divorced. Alright guys, the rumor is that Ashton and Mila have separated in preparation for all of the dirt that's about to surface involving Ashton at the Diddy parties.
You know how celebrities are totally fake and try to pretend they never knew each other the moment one of them gets into trouble? Well, thank goodness for the internet because it never forgets. I mean, CBS can try all they want to distance themselves from Diddy right now, but honey, those receipts are everywhere. The photos, the videos, all that partying. It's all documented and it's not going anywhere. But let me spill some seriously scalding tea about who was practically living in Diddy's pocket. None other than Ashton Kutcher himself. And trust me when I tell you this friendship was way more intense than anyone realized. It all started back in the punked days when Ashton, thinking he was being clever, decided he was going to pull one of his famous pranks on Diddy. Oh, but sweetie, that plan backfired faster than a cheap firework. Picture this, Diddy straight up calls Ashton and basically tells him to back off, and let's just say it wasn't exactly a friendly chat between bros. According to Ashton himself, Diddy made it crystal clear that pranking him would be a very, very bad life choice. But here's where things take this weird turn that nobody saw coming. Instead of creating drama, this little intimidation moment actually sparked this intense bromance between them. Before you could say, that's hot, wrong celebrity, I know, but still, these two were absolutely inseparable. Red carpets? They were there together. Talk shows? Couldn't keep them apart. And those infamous white parties Diddy threw? Baby, Ashton was like a permanent fixture, practically part of the furniture. He couldn't stop bragging about how these parties were just the most amazing events ever, like they were some kind of life-changing experience. Listen to what he told the Mirror about hanging with Diddy. And this quote is going to come back to haunt him, trust me. If you're a single man, there's probably no greater human being in the world to hang out with. This was like 19 or 20 years ago, and according to Ashton, they were having the time of their lives. But notice how vague that is? Like, what exactly made these parties so amazing, Ashton? What were you all doing that was so incredible? And here's where it gets super suspicious. When Ashton went on Hot Ones in 2019, he got weirdly quiet when they brought up Diddy's parties. Like, completely clammed up. This is the same guy who usually can't stop talking about anything and everything, suddenly acting like he's in a silent movie when Diddy's parties come up. Red Flag City, population, Ashton.
Diddy party stories, they're our favorite genre of anecdote. If you
really?
have one, yeah.
Wow, okay, I've got a lot I can't tell. So, can't tell that one either. I mean, I'm like actually cycling through them. I feel like
Well, we still have some time to go, you know, I can blow it here.
Okay.
Now, this silence was beyond bizarre because Ashton used to literally gush about Diddy like he was writing for a fan blog. Back in 2006, he even credited their friendship for pushing him to take that role in Guess Who. He went all deep and philosophical about it too, saying stuff like, "Our friendship has helped me become aware of the fact that people are becoming comfortable with something that's still very uncomfortable." He even got super real about race relations, trying to sound all enlightened when he said, "When I was hanging out with Shaw, people did not understand why this Iowa farm kid went out with this hip-hop mogul from New York. But it wasn't that he was a hip-hop mogul and I was a farm kid, it was because he was black and I was white. It was that simple. If he was a white hip-hop artist from New York, nobody would have noticed." But oh honey, how the mighty have fallen. Now Ashton is running from Diddy faster than a celebrity runs from a bad paparazzi photo. And here's the juiciest bit that's making everyone's eyebrows hit the ceiling. Mila Kunis, his wife, has reportedly put her foot down and completely banned him from having any contact with Diddy whatsoever. And honestly, after everything that's coming out, can we blame her? Because let me remind you about the last time Ashton stood by a problematic friend. It exploded in his face like a glitter bomb at a kindergarten party. I'm talking about the whole Danny Masterson situation from September 2023. For those who somehow missed this massive scandal, were you living under a rock? Masterson, Hyde from that 70s show, was convicted of 2 women back in 2003. The judge wasn't playing around either. They slapped him with a 30 years to life prison sentence. But what really set social media on fire was when people found out that Ashton and Mila had written these character reference letters supporting Masterson. I mean, can we talk about the irony here for a hot minute? Ashton Kutcher, the same guy who's been parading around as this huge anti-trafficking activist, actually vouched for someone convicted of these horrible crimes. The audacity, the hypocrisy, the absolute nerve. Let me give you the backstory real quick. In 2009, Ashton and his then-wife Demi Moore started this organization called Thorn to fight against exploitation of young people. He even went all the way to Congress to push for stronger protection laws. He was out here trying to be Captain Save the World, making headlines left and right for his activism. So when people found out about these letters defending Masterson, oh my God. The internet didn't just explode, it went nuclear.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
You should have seen these letters. They were painting Masterson as if he was some kind of modern-day saint, a dedicated family man with a strong moral compass. I literally can't. They actually had the nerve to call him a role model. The backlash was so intense, Ashton and Mila had to do that whole celebrity damage control thing. You know the one. Cue the apologetic Instagram video with the perfect lighting and sad faces. They tried to smooth things over by saying, "We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future." But honey, people saw right through that faster than a window cleaner's best work. The comment section turned into a total war zone, with people calling out their fake-looking apology from every direction. And then, in classic Hollywood fashion, Ashton stepped down as chairman of Thorn's board of directors, like way to try to save face. But sweetie, at this point, his reputation as an activist was already completely destroyed, crushed, finished.
Hillary Duff is in Lizzie McGuire. She also has an album out. She's going to be in a movie called Cheaper by the Dozen. And she's one of the girls that we're all waiting for to turn 18, along with the Olsen twins. Any 15-year-old.
Just when you thought this couldn't get any more disturbing, hold on to your seats because this tea is about to get even hotter. An old clip from his MTV show Punk'd resurfaced, and let me tell you, it is beyond creepy. It's the kind of thing that makes your skin crawl and your stomach turn. Ashton was caught making these absolutely disgusting comments about teenage Hillary Duff, and because apparently that wasn't gross enough, he just had to drag the Olsen twins into it too. He actually sat there talking about how everyone was waiting for these teenage stars to become legal. I mean, who says things like that? What kind of person even thinks that way? And speaking of inappropriate behavior that's aged about as well as milk in the sun, let me spill some more tea about his early days on That 70s Show. Apparently, he and Danny Masterson had this absolutely revolting bet about who could French kiss Mila Kunis first. Now, this might not sound too shocking since Ashton and Mila are married now, but wait for it. Mila was only 14 at the time, and Ashton was 19. Even worse, it was Mila's first kiss ever, and she had no idea about this creepy bet between these two grown men, one of whom would later be convicted of serious crimes. Like, can we just take a moment to process how wrong that is on every possible level?
You know what's funny is when she was 14 when we started the show. I was like 19, right?
Right.
And they're like, okay, you guys are going to be making out in this scene. And I'm like thinking like, wait, this is like slightly illegal, right? I was going to say, that's
probably your first kiss ever, right?
It was my first kiss. Why don't someone bet you made with Danny about our first kiss?
No, it wasn't the first kiss.
No,
it was like a second or third kiss.
It was the first, it was like the first week.
No, it was not the first week.
Whatever, let me tell you what happened.
No, let me tell you what happened.
No, okay, so I've never kissed a guy. So I was so, I mean, you know, Ash was attractive, and I was a 14-year-old little girl, and I was extremely scared for my life.
Sure.
And he was very nice about it. He was like, oh, don't worry. So I was like, okay. Then Danny goes to him and goes, dude, I'll give you $10 if you French kiss her. What would you stick your tongue in my mouth or some?
What? No.
For $10.
You're making it sound like it was like really. Okay, Dan, we had a little side bet going.
Yeah.
Like,
Which was?
It wasn't very
as to whether or not, you're kissing on the show or boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
You would use tongue, right, Rosie? I mean, you would.
It depends what kind of an actor you are, I guess.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So Danny bets me like $20 that I wouldn't do it, and of course I'm like, yeah, sure, what's the deal? You know?
Then the cop showed up and you got arrested, pretty much.
They should have, but they didn't.
Now brace yourselves, because we're about to dive into one of the darkest, most chilling chapters of this whole story. Back in 2001, Ashton got tangled up in something straight out of a true crime documentary. He had plans to go on a date with Ashley Ellerin, this gorgeous 22-year-old fashion design student. They talked on the phone that evening. Everything seemed perfectly normal, just your typical Hollywood date night. But what happened next is the kind of thing that gives you nightmares. According to Ashton's own testimony, and yes, he had to testify in court about this, he showed up at Ashley's Hollywood bungalow 2 hours after their phone call. The lights were on inside, but nobody answered when he knocked. Then comes the part that will make your blood run cold. He looked through the window and saw what he thought was a red wine stain on the carpet. Thinking he'd been stood up, he just left and went about his night. I mean, can you even imagine what must have been going through his mind later? Because the next morning, the truth came out, and it was absolutely devastating. The kind of news that shakes you to your core. Ashley had been found by her roommate, and she had been 47 times. Let that number sink in. 47 times. That wine stain Ashton saw through the window? Well, I think we all know now what that really was, and it's the kind of realization that haunts you forever. The killer turned out to be Michael Gargiulo, who prosecutors dubbed the Hollywood Ripper, and trust me, he earned that nickname in the most horrifying way possible. This wasn't just some random act of violence. Gargiulo was a serial killer who had attacked other women too. When Ashton found out what happened, he completely freaked out, especially because his fingerprints were all over Ashley's front door from knocking that night. Can you imagine being in that position? Finding out that while you were looking through that window, thinking you'd been stood up, something so horrible had already happened? Even though Gargiulo was eventually arrested in 2008 and found guilty, people have never stopped questioning Ashton's connection to this horrific case. And now, with all these other controversies swirling around him like a perfect storm, the questions are getting louder and louder. I mean, what are the odds of being connected to not one, but multiple disturbing incidents? Think about it. From his creepy comments about underage stars to his close friendship with Diddy, from defending Danny Masterson to being tangentially connected to the Hollywood Ripper case, it's like everywhere you look in Ashton's past, there's another red flag waving in the wind. And now he's supposedly planning to leave the country? It's like they say, where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and honey, this is starting to look like a whole forest fire. So what do you think, my loves? Should law enforcement be taking a closer look at Ashton and his connections to Diddy? Is there more to these stories than meets the eye? Could all these disturbing incidents be just horrible coincidences, or is there something darker lurking beneath that charming exterior? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is definitely not over. In fact, I have a feeling it's just getting started. And remember, in Hollywood, the truth is often stranger than fiction, and sometimes the most picture-perfect facades are hiding the darkest secrets. Stay tuned, because something tells me there's a lot more to this story that hasn't come out yet.